Breaking news at this hour, the United Nations Security Council condemning North Korea's missile launch as the Pentagon says North Korea's missile flew farther than any North Korean missile test so far, and that the test shows Pyongyang is more capable than the United States previously thought. Two very significant developments. Our Pentagon correspondent Barbara Starr breaking that news tonight. And Barbara, you're learning some more specifics that are pretty frightening.
That's right, Aaron. Good evening. The military hardware involved in this test really appears to be quite unique. Pentagon officials are saying that this missile did fly farther than any other previous test launched from North Korea's western coastline, flying across the country and landing about 300 miles out in the Sea of Japan. This was a missile that had never been tested, as far as the U.S. can determine, from a land-based launch pad. It had always been tested from a submarine, so that, again, a new military capability by the North Koreans, launching it from a fixed site on land. And perhaps most significantly, it was solid fuel, not liquid fuel. That means it's much more difficult for U.S. intelligence to get the early signals that a missile is being fueled up for a launch. Aaron?
All right, Barbara Starr, thank you very much. Some very sobering details there and very significant when experts say, obviously, we could be just a few years away within the Trump administration of a full intercontinental ballistic missile nuclear-enabled warhead from North Korea.
Hi everybody, my name is Mike. This is my YouTube page, Mox News. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, so I just want to talk about the North Korean threat because it's really not it's really a non-existent threat. I mean, it's not that North Korea couldn't hurt different people, but North Korea doesn't want to hurt anybody, and this idea that somehow North Korea is going to lob a missile with possibly a nuclear warhead over to the west coast of the United States is beyond ridiculous. They're not about to do that because they don't want to be squashed out of existence more, you know. When I say they, I mean, we're talking about the government. I'm so tired of this. Oh, the Russians. The Russians are our friends. Russian people are my brothers and sisters. And North Korean people are my brothers and sisters. Okay? Russians are my neighbors. Russians are my friends. Russians are our loved ones. Okay? They're everywhere. I mean, in the Seattle area, there's a lot of Russians. I have all kinds of Russian friends. And to badmouth Russians, it's not the Russians. It's not the North Koreans. It's not the Americans. It's governments. The governments are evil. And I don't want to speak for other people's governments, but I can guarantee you the American government is completely one of the most evil forces on the planet. Beyond a doubt. Anybody paying attention knows that. But I digress. I want to talk about North Korea for a couple of reasons, because it's in the news and they're threatening you with this. North Korea can bomb us at any time, and the truth is that it's also that, you know, when I was growing up, I had this over my head. From the time I was like 5 years old, it was pounded in me. I swear it was like every single day, pounded into me that in 30 minutes and 40 minutes, you know, the Russians could hit us with nuclear weapons, and we'll all just be, you know, turned to ash, incinerated. In 40 minutes, you can be dead. And I don't want that hanging over your children's heads. I don't want that hanging over your heads. And the reason I say I know most of you guys are way smarter than me, and I don't mean to act like somehow I'm talking down to you or anything. I know that you're smarter than me. It's just my roommate, who's a very smart guy. He's a successful businessman, owns his own home, owns, you know, a little fleet of cars. You know, and he's a good guy. He works really hard. And he asked me, you know, do you think North Korea is going to do something to start to start, trouble with this. And I said, North Korea doesn't want to do anything. And you don't think that they're going to like shoot a missile this way or anything? And I'm like, no, that's ridiculous. And I'll tell you why it's ridiculous. Last year, North Korea put at least 2 satellites into space. I'm pretty sure. 2 separate occasions they shot satellites into space last year. I'm pretty sure, 2016. And here's the deal. If North Korea wants to fuck with the world, North Korea just shoots a bomb up into orbit and takes out a whole bunch of satellites. That's going to have a whole lot more repercussions long term than I'm pretty sure. Again, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I'm pretty sure that's going to have long term repercussions a lot bigger than, taking out 100,000 people on the United States West Coast. That's almost meaningless compared to, wiping out a whole bunch of satellites and making it really difficult to put more satellites in there, which they could do with one little bomb, like almost an IED type of bomb, real basic bomb making stuff. And these guys have science. This is not Iraq or this is not ISIS, okay? These guys have actual scientists who put satellites into space when they're under sanctions and can't get shit from anybody, okay? These are people want to portray them as living in the dark ages, but they must be doing something here. They're not in the dark ages, certainly. They're in the space race. And then my roommate asked, do you think Donald Trump will do something to provoke the North Koreans into doing something, and you can't go to war with North Korea. Number one, you can't do it, and that's the other thing is the reason North Korea is doing these tests is because they're being provoked by Japan and the United States. The United States is over in the Sea of Japan right now delivering a missile weapon system to Japan. A defensive missile weapon system to Japan. Okay, and they're also shooting off missile tests to show Japan how it works, training exercises, and show them that it does work and blah, blah, blah. And North Korea's like, hey, fuck you guys, all right? You don't come into my backyard and start firing off missiles my direction. You know what I'm saying? Okay, because I can respond. And that's all that they're doing. And now it's all this, North Korea's saber rattling. No, we're over there provoking them and they're responding to that. Now, the question is, will Trump do something to provoke North Korea to make them want to go to war with us? And the thing is, you can't go to war with North Korea. And this is the deal, man. We can't go to wars. We can't go to war with North Korea because unless you're just going to nuke them, any kind of conventional war, from what I understand, they have like thousands and thousands and thousands, like 30,000 artillery cannons on the border with South Korea, right? North Korea, South Korea had, and they're prepared at any moment to just start firing endlessly. And from what I understand, in the first 24 hours or so, there'd be like 1 million dead South Koreans, and that's just with conventional weapons. And when you talk about North Korea and artillery shells, you'd instantly think about chemical weapons. So, take that 1 million people dead in the first 24 hours and multiply it by 10 probably. So you can't go to war with North Korea. It's just not going to happen. There isn't, and the reason I'm telling you this again, I grew up with this fear. Every moment of every day, it seems like every day it was put into my head when I was a kid, from the time I was like 5 years old or maybe younger, that, the Russians have nuclear weapons and that they can hit us within 35, 45 minutes, just like that. We can all be vaporized, just be gone. In 45 minutes, we just don't exist anymore. And I think that that was really, 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 really unfair of this horrific piece of shit government to do to a beautiful little child who just wants to go out and enjoy the day. I think that was just a really horrible thing for this government to do to millions and millions and millions, hundreds and hundreds of millions of children for years and years and years. Duck and cover. Duck and cover. Just have this sword of Damocles hanging directly over their head. Could just fall at any moment and they all be gone. So that's the reason I tell you this, okay? I mean, and I explain it to my roommate like this too. Again, he's a very smart guy. You know, if North Korea wants to fuck with people, they just put a bomb up into orbit, you know, and then I don't know, is it legitimate after they do something like that to like go and vaporize 10 million North Koreans? Would that be legitimate if they don't actually attack anybody in particular? You know what I'm saying? Which kind of proves that they don't want to fight, because they could already do something, and then you have to wonder how justified it is. I mean, sanctions are justified, but then how justified is it to actually do a military strike on civilians because of something like that, right? Get what I'm saying? They don't want a fight. They're just simply responding to the United States being dickheads in their backyards. So I thought you guys should know that, just in case you're worried about North Korea or your kids ask about North Korea, you can just let them know there's really nothing to be afraid of. Really, I mean, our government is a much bigger threat to your freedom and your children's freedom than North Korea will ever be if your children live to be 200 years old. Okay, take it from me. All right. So, anyways, if you like what I do, and you'd like to show some appreciation, it's easy to make a donation at moxnews.com. I really super appreciate it. I haven't been getting a lot of donations. The other day, somebody donated. I only got like $1 donation after like 3 days of time. I got somebody gave me. I was like, oh, I got a donation. How much is it? Instead of $1, right? And I was like, okay, thanks. You know, I was like, oh, you got me. I'm like, because there's like lottery tickets in the mail, you know, you see one in the Gmail and you go, oh, I got a lottery ticket. It's a winner. I know it's a winner. How much is it? And you click on it and go, $1. It's a winner. It's a winner. You got me. But if you want to help, and then somebody donated later that day. Somebody donated $5, and there was a little note attached. It says, "I know it's not much, but I really hope it helps." And I wanted to let that person know that when I don't get anything put in my bowl for 3 days in a row, and then you donate $5, it really helps a lot, because it lets me know, hey, you know, I don't know, somebody appreciates me. You know what I mean? So if you'd like to show some appreciation to Mox News, easy to do at moxnews.com, or there's clickable links in the text body of this video, okay? So thanks very much for tuning in. My name's Mike. This is my YouTube page, Mox News. And stay cool. One of these days this war is going to end. Got to end one of these days when we all rise up together, brothers and sisters. Till that day.
Compassion stirred the Buddha to send his monks out into the community. Sworn to chastity and poverty, they wandered the roads, bringing the Buddha's teachings into the world. Go forth, monks, for the happiness of the many, out of compassion for the world. There are beings whose eyes have little dust on them, who will perish if they do not hear the teaching. But if they hear the teaching, they will gain liberation.
The monks exist by begging. We think of begging as kind of a bad thing. Begging in this tradition is a good thing. It's a sign of spiritual purity.
You're not allowed to beg tomorrow's lunch today. Only today's lunch. Then you can't eat from noon until dawn the next day. Then you have to go out and get another lunch. And then in exchange for lunch, you give a lecture. Unless they say we don't want to hear about it, then you don't. But that's the only thing but that forces you to interact with the lay community.
And if you're not serving them, if you're not doing something useful for them, they won't put anything in your bowl, and that will be the end of your community.